Why some people are bad cooks even though we have very basic and simple instructions for most of the common dishes. Some people are bad judges of quantities or impatient and poor at following directions. Many people don't weigh ingredients and don't understand the role different ingredients play in the dish. Different people have different skill sets and different aptitudes. You can put instructions to anything, doesn't mean anyone can do anything to the same degree. Bad cook here. I can follow a recipe and achieve it, but I always need that recipe, which I think makes me a bad cook. I can't stray from the recipe to make it better, or make up for missing ingredients. My problem is that I need to understand why I'm doing something, not what to do. I have no effing clue why I need to dice the onion in one recipe and slice it in another. I don't know why I need sage. Why is paprika good in this dish but not another? This kind of stuff isn't explained usually and for some reason, doesn't come naturally to me at all. I should really book some cooking classes. It's way more complicated than that. The way you stir, the amount of spices, the heat of your stove, etc. etc. There are so many things which alter cooking. It's not like building a Lego, it's like flying a plane or driving a car. You know what each button and part does, but you need experience. I am not a good cook. But the issue is not for simple instructions or basic dishes. I can make eggs with the best of them, throw together a salad, brown some ground meat, or boil some pasta easily. The issue is that most people who are good cooks are good at improvising in the kitchen and can just throw something together. I can't do this. I'm very good at following instructions. I'm an excellent baker, because of this, as most baking recipes are rather precise. But many times with cooking, people will just measure with their heart. This does not work for me. I need a measurement. Also, I live alone, so don't find it necessary to cook big complicated meals, so don't really care that I'm a crappy cook. I make simple things I like and that's fine. I went to school to be a chef. You'll say that most recipes you find online, which is where most people go to find recipes nowadays, aren't very good or detailed enough. For someone that doesn't have experience, a lot of recipes come across as vague really. It's also an issue that people will follow a recipe word for word. A recipe could say bake for an hour in the oven. But what if in your case, it's actually ready in 50 minutes, and the extra 10 minutes ends up overcooking whatever it is? If people don't cook often, they won't develop the knowledge to adapt, and therefore will just do whatever some supposed expert will tell them to do. I can follow the directions to the letter, but my oven has other ideas. Some appliances bake more evenly than others and you have to experiment to get the time correct. Why are some people bad drivers even after years of experience? I mean, everyone is good at different things, right? Like you could follow instructions step by step, but sometimes it might come down to talent. I think there are lots of things in this life where there are two components, natural skill and talent acquired through instruction. This seems especially true with the arts or arts-adjacent things. Yeah, anyone can learn to cook via recipes, but some people almost seem to dream in flavors. Some people have the ability to look at a half-empty pantry or fridge and project what would be good based on what they have available. Doesn't seem that different from music to me. I have a great singing voice and can read music and play a couple of instruments, sure. I also have a friend who has an actual Grammy and can crank out a sing about literally any situation in under 20 minutes because he basically thinks in music. And I mean any situation, like how much our mayor sucks or a fake theme song. Not everything can follow instruction linearly. The people I know that have the most trouble cooking are neurodiverse or never have been taught how to start and do the basics. Also, gender all can play a part. A lot of men assume, BC I am a woman, I should be cooking, making coffee for them or fetch stuff. But with me they learn to change their expectation when they come into someone else's house or encounter strangers. I don't understand how long to cook things. Baking is easy because the directions say cook at 350 for 35 minutes. I can do that. When I have to cook a chicken breast in a pan, I don't know how hot or for how long, and then only way to tell if it's done is to take it out and stick a thermometer in it, and by the time it reaches 165 it's tough and dried out. I like my broccoli soft, but I only ever end up with crunchy or mush and nowhere in between. Casseroles are achievable, but a lot of foods take too much knowledge and experience to be practical. Bad prep. If you don't have your tools laid out and ingredients organized, there is a higher chance that you will be distracted at an important point in the process. Bad tools. Going with the above, just having subpar equipment often makes the general process more annoying or tedious than it needs to be, and people being people, some will get impatient. The best thing I ever learned in cooking was how to properly sharpen a knife. Bad recipes. If you cook long enough, one thing you pick up is that the majority of recipes are lousy. The end result might actually be good, but they are written poorly, often assume certain things that shouldn't be assumed, and other problems. Read through the whole thing before you commit. I've commonly seen recipes call for an onion, and later on far down the instructions, they mention to add the chopped onion. It would have been nice to have that spelled out before you're in the middle of cooking everything. I once read a black raspberry jam recipe that instructed you to bring to a high boil and cook for 1 minute. You'd get syrup, not jam, following that recipe. Obviously you've got to go 10 minutes or longer, so it must have been a printing mistake. Sometimes the recipes are wrong. I struggle with recipes often, and honestly, I feel like a lot of the time the recipes are assuming you know a lot of things. They often say things like reduce heat, but not to what temp. Reduce to medium? Low? Simmer? They sometimes say 1 cup of cheese, but not whether that is shredded or not. With a cheese like cheddar I assume it's shredded, but what about Parmesan that gets super airy when shredded? They often say until the juices run clear, yet I struggle to tell if that means water level of clarity or just not completely opaque. Then I overcook my chicken, lol. I don't have the patience or focus. The age-old mystery of bad cooks. It's like following IKEA instructions, but still ending up with a bookshelf that's a chair. Some people treat cooking like a science experiment gone wrong. Step 1. Add salt. Step 2. Oops, that's the sugar. Next thing you know, they've created a whole new dish called What Was I Thinking? Seriously, it's not rocket science, but for some, it's definitely a solid contender for a nailed it episode. Some people just have shit taste. The women in my GF family have shit taste, and they cook to their own liking. They always enjoy what they made, but everyone else including my GF and her sister, who luckily didn't get the shit taste gene, hates their food. And my GF's mom has great technique. When she decides to follow a recipe, it really is delicious. But 95% of the time, it's vegetables boiled for hours where salt is a distant memory. When you just start out, every step of instructions seems difficult because you didn't do it before. You treat them as separate obstacles, while if you're more experienced or even it's a recipe you've done before, you have a more general picture, can plan ahead, etc. When you only see the one step in front of you, it can become overwhelming, takes longer than stated in the recipe, and you leave a trail of dirty cookware in your wake that you then have to clean. So you say I'm terrible, lol, I hate cooking, etc. And you have to cook so you can eat. So it's not a hobby but a chore and time sensitive. So you hate it even more. You can acquire the skills through experience, but you need to overcome the first overwhelming stage. And if you don't absolutely have to, you may never do it. I know I'm a decent cook, but if I have to make dinner for myself, I'll just half-ass whatever's in the fridge because cooking is exhausting and I'd rather be doing anything else. I fucking hate cooking. That's why. Cooking is not exact science, and one shouldn't approach it like one approaches Lego. Cooking has a lot to do with one's sense of taste, of ideas on how ingredients behave and reacts to other ingredients, and not everyone has that grasp. For example, a pinch of salt when the onions turned brown on a high heat fire. What kind of salt? How much's a pinch? How brown is brown? How high heat of a fire is high heat? What's an onion?